Hello, let me introduce Roger King, who is the founder of one of the oldest business angels groups in Bay Area, and it's called BayAngels. Roger, can you tell us a little bit about your group and you?
Sure. I founded BayAngels about 22 years ago. We primarily invest in early stage companies, usually at the seed round. We get about 100 deals every month. We have a team of 6 analysts that boil them down to the top 5 or 6 companies each month, and we tee them up every month for a monthly meeting to raise money for them. Before we meet with them or tee them up, we coach them, we work on their pitch deck, we know exactly what they're going to say, and we actively prepare them for our monthly events.
Okay, thank you. And my questions now about startups and entrepreneurs. What mistakes entrepreneurs usually do when they pitch to Angels Group?
That's a great question. The biggest mistake most entrepreneurs when they pitch in a limited time session, say 4 to 10 minutes, they spend too much time talking about the problem and not enough time talking about the solution. So I encourage startups to talk maybe for a half a minute about the problem and then go on and talk about the solution. The other mistake they make is they're so involved in the companies they forget what the audience does or doesn't know about what they do. So I encourage companies to boil it down, make a simple introduction, tell us in one sentence what the company does, and then dive deeper into the product or service that they're working on.
Roger, this video we make for investors who just begin to invest and want to understand the secrets of investing in startups from professionals. So my first question is, can you tell us a little bit about probably 3 most successful or promising startups in your portfolio now or in the past, and what they do?
So the first part of the question is, if you're starting to invest for the first time, I encourage you to join an angel organization so you can leverage the information and due diligence of other experts that have been investing for a number of years, rather than start out on your own. In terms of our successes, one of the first companies we got behind, we invested in the seed round of OpenTable, which was one of our earlier portfolio companies, who then went public. We invested in PhotoBucket, which was one of the earlier photo storage companies prior to them being acquired by Fox Media. We invested in a games company called Tapulous that had a very popular game called Tap Tap Revenge and a game that all the kids played called Guitar Hero. We invested in them before they were acquired by Disney. So most of our success has come through M&A activity, not necessarily through the IPO market.
So how the valuation of startups changed since the moment you invested in those startups, or if had the exit happened, what was the multiplier?
The multipliers varied anywhere from 4x to 20x. And the way we look at investments typically, I call it the rule of tens. If you invest in 10 companies and you expect to get 10x on each of those investments, 8 of them will fail. 1 of them will break even, you'll get your money back, and then 1 of them will make enough money to cover all of your losses and make up for all of them. That's kind of how the math usually works out.
Roger, do you remember how did you find those startups, and how do you usually search for startups, and what was the case in that particular situation?
That's a good question. So I have several sources of startups. One is events like this where I'm oftentimes a panelist on an event, and we get deal flow that way. I would say 80% of our deals come from our website, companies coming to us. Maybe another 20% comes from events like this, and then we get referrals from other angel groups and other investors. We also get referrals from venture capitalists who come across a deal and say maybe it's too early for them because they do A and B rounds, and they'll send it to us. So one of the things we look at is what was the source of the deal? Where did it come from? Who referred this to us?
Roger, do you remember, did you lead or follow the round in those investments?
Typically we lead. Typically we're the first ones in the investments. That's the difference between an angel and a VC. The VCs follow the angels. The angels are the first ones in the round. So typically our investments, we're the first one in. Now I say the first professional investment. We wouldn't be the first investment. We would come in after the friends and family round. But we're early on.
I see. And can you tell me, please, how long usually do you know the entrepreneur before you invest in the startup?
I would say an average of 4 to 6 weeks would be average. Yeah, not that long. But we do a deep dive and find out, what have they done before, who invested them in the earlier companies and that sort of thing.
What about Open Table? What was the period on which you knew the entrepreneur?
Open Table was so early and it was such a great idea, we wrote checks within 2 weeks of meeting with them.
Okay, so you just knew the guys for 2 weeks.
It just seemed like such a great idea. They were the first one to come out with a reservation system for restaurants, which was a new idea at the time.
Okay.
And it opened up the doors for a number of things. Why not have open dentist, open hairdresser, same kind of platform.
Roger, how fast do you usually make the decision to invest? And for those startups, was it faster than usual?
I would say our average time from the time we meet with the company the first time before we write a check, an average would be 30 days.
30 days?
Yeah.
Okay, and for example, Open Tables, it was 2 weeks, yeah?
2 weeks,
it was faster even.
Yeah, very fast.
Why?
That was early on when it seemed like we were one of the earlier angel investors organizations. Angel investing was new. We had a lot of new members that were anxious to spend some money, get into it. And to be honest, I don't think they did the amount of due diligence then that they do now.
Okay.
In fact, I had one investor who literally, after a guy pitched, he wrote a check, stuck it in the entrepreneur's pocket, and said, "Call me tomorrow and we'll figure out the terms." Just like that.
Okay.
Kind of risky. But that was before the first collapse of the dot-com.
Okay.
So after we all learned lessons after the dot-com collapse and decided to take a little more time, do more due diligence. One of the biggest mistakes I've made personally as an investor, last year I sunk a lot of money into an ICO, an initial coin investment offering, and lost everything.
Wow.
So we haven't won on everything, but you win some, you lose some.
But if talk about venture investments, which mistakes would you recommend to avoid for those investors who just starting?
Say that again.
We talk about mistakes which you would recommend to avoid for those investors who just starting to invest.
I think you have to be realistic and understand that it's going to take amount of time to get your money back and have a return. There's no overnight successes, or very few of them. So make sure you can live without that money for a lengthy period of time, 2 to 5 years.
And probably last questions. What do you think? Why did you succeed?
Part of it was due diligence, part of it was the companies we chose, and part of it, like gambling, was some good luck.
Thank you very much, Roger,
my pleasure.
For your openness and for your advices.
Always a pleasure.
For beginners.
Thank you.
I wish you good luck, and for your Angels group and to you personally.
Thank you so much.